Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a really complex, serious, and honestly pretty distressing reality in modern medicine, and that's anesthesia errors. Think about it. When we or someone we love goes into surgery, we're placing a massive amount of trust in the medical professionals in that room. You close your eyes, fully trusting you're going to wake up safely. But what happens when that trust is broken? Today, we're going to break down the causes, the harrowing consequences, and most importantly, your legal options if the unthinkable actually happens.
I mean, let's be real. Anesthesia is absolutely a modern miracle. It's this incredible cornerstone that literally revolutionized healthcare. It allows doctors to perform these highly complex, life-saving surgeries without the patient feeling any pain or distress. But, as the slide says, it's not without risk. And when things go wrong with anesthesia, they can go profoundly, terribly wrong.
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. What anesthesia errors actually are, 2. Common types of mistakes, 3. Why these errors happen, 4. The devastating consequences, and 5. Taking legal action.
All right, let's just dive right into Section 1. What exactly are anesthesia errors?
A lot of people think an anesthesia error is just about that exact moment you're put to sleep. But it's actually way broader than that. These are mistakes made during the administration, the ongoing monitoring, or the overall management of the anesthesia. So this means an error could happen during your prep before surgery, during the actual procedure, or even in post-op care. And the absolutely crucial point here, legally speaking, is that when these mistakes happen because of negligence or a breach of the standard of care, that's when it crosses the line into medical malpractice.
Okay, moving on to Section 2, common types of mistakes. What do these actually look like in a hospital setting? Because anesthesia requires such extreme precision, the margin for error is incredibly thin. We're looking at things like dosage errors, or imagine a delayed administration that causes unexpected pain just as the procedure is kicking off. Then you have a failure to monitor, or situations where a doctor didn't properly review a patient's history, which triggers a severe allergic reaction right there on the table. And sometimes, it's equipment malfunctions, an uncalibrated machine that delivers the wrong dose or deprives a patient of oxygen. Every single step requires total vigilance, because even one tiny lapse can trigger a full-blown medical crisis.
Which naturally leads us to Section 3. Why do errors happen? How are critical mistakes like this allowed to occur in professional healthcare settings?
Well, it usually comes down to a clash between human error and systemic issues. On the human side, you've got things like miscalculating a dosage, poor communication among the surgical team, or just inadequate training for handling fast-moving complications. But here's the thing, those individual human errors are so often compounded by broader systemic facility failures. We're talking overworked staff, dangerous understaffing, or a reliance on faulty equipment. What's truly terrifying is when these two categories intersect. When you put an exhausted or poorly trained professional in an operating room with uncalibrated equipment, you're literally creating a recipe for disaster that severely compromises patient safety.
Let's transition over to Section 4, the devastating consequences. I want to be really deliberate here because the physical and emotional trauma victims experience from these errors is profound and it deserves to be fully validated.
First, we have to talk about anesthesia awareness. It is a rare but absolutely horrifying condition. This happens when a patient regains partial or even full consciousness right in the middle of surgery. They can actually feel the pain of the procedure, but because of the paralytic drugs, they are entirely unable to move or communicate with the surgeons. It is a level of experiential trauma that's almost hard to fathom, and it leaves victims with severe, lasting psychological scars.
And beyond that awareness, the medical consequences are just as severe. A simple failure in monitoring can lead to hypoxia, which is basically when your body's tissues aren't getting enough oxygen, and that can quickly result in irreversible brain damage. Or a miscalculated injection could cause long-term nerve damage or permanent paralysis. In the worst cases, the physiological shock to the body is so intense that it triggers a heart attack or a stroke right on the table. And tragically, these cascading errors can be fatal, leaving families completely devastated.
So when a family is faced with these catastrophic outcomes, the massive medical bills, the lost wages, the unimaginable grief, it brings us to a really pivotal question. What are your legal options?
That brings us right into our final section, taking legal action. This is where we shift from the trauma of the event toward accountability, justice, and getting some much-needed financial relief.
All right, let's walk through this 5-step playbook. Step 1, and this is absolutely your crucial first move. Consult a medical malpractice attorney. They're going to assess if negligence actually occurred and guide you through the whole process.
Step 2 is gathering evidence. We're talking preoperative assessments, anesthesia logs, all of that. Step 3 is obtaining expert testimony. Your attorney will find experts, like other anesthesiologists, to explain exactly how that standard of care was breached. Step 4 is identifying all the responsible parties, because liability might be split between the doctor, the nurses, or even the hospital itself. And finally, Step 5, file your claim promptly.
I actually want to pause and really emphasize that last step. Beware of the statute of limitations. Every single state has specific, very strict deadlines for filing medical malpractice cases. If you miss that window, your claim is dismissed, period. So you have to act quickly to preserve your right to seek compensation. In these cases, time is literally of the essence.
Honestly, you really shouldn't try to navigate that tight timeline alone. An experienced attorney evaluates the strength of your case, gathers and presents all that complex medical evidence, negotiates with the insurance companies to make sure you get a fair settlement, and advocates for you in court if it has to go to trial. Having legal representation is a game changer because the attorney takes on the massive burden of the legal fight. That way, the victim and their family can just focus entirely on recovery.
To wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with one final provocative question. How will you or your loved ones hold negligent parties accountable and secure the resources you need for recovery? Look, anesthesia errors are a sobering reminder of the risks involved in medical procedures. But by understanding the causes, the standard of care, and your legal rights, you are empowered to actually do something about it. Thank you so much for diving into this complex topic with me today. Just remember, if you or someone you love has been impacted by an anesthesia error, you have options, and you absolutely have the right to seek the justice you deserve.